AskReddit by Tremendous. Which food is worth making yourself rather than buying it? Which isn't? Croissants, or anything with a flaky pastry isn't worth trying to make at home. Homemade pasta sauce is better than anything out of a jar and not that difficult. Homemade meatballs better than anything frozen. Basically any patisserie. I may think I'm a good cook, but I have nothing on all the skilled pastry chefs we have here in Germany or when I travel to any of our neighboring countries. Breakfast. Breakfast places are overly busy on weekends and overpriced bacon and eggs, pancakes, French toast all cheap and easy to make. Whenever I eat breakfast out, which is very rare, I always go with eggs Benedict since it's a pain to make at home. Salads BC, they are quick, easy or great to make at home. Stock ramen take forever to make yourself and you can get some really nice instant flavor packages these days. As someone living alone and who also loves salads, I end up wasting so many vegetables. The cost ends up being pretty close to just grabbing one from a local salad shop at the end of the day, for me. I made butter for myself, which was a lot of labor, but fun. However, it tasted exactly like the butter I get from the grocery store, and wasn't worth the time and effort it required. I did the same thing, and talked with a buddy of mine who has his own cows and makes his own butter. He said it's all about the cream, and if you are using store-bought, pasteurized cream, it's not going to be much different than store-bought butter. He described how different the butter he makes tastes, and how different the butter tastes throughout the season depending on if it's fall or spring, and what the cow has been eating. So, now I'm curious and want to buy cream directly from a farmer. Tamales. But I don't run around with a cooler full of steaming hot tamales in my trunk, so I buy them from Umberto in the parking lot. Hey, support a small business and delicious tamales? Sounds like a win. No one makes a grilled cheese like you. I make them at night in case the restaurant doesn't have them. Chocolate chip cookies. Pretty much any type of cookie is so much better still warm fresh out of the oven. Burgers are a blast to make, since they are so customizable. Pro tip. If you have the grill going already, might as well use the heck out of it. Toss on some veggie kebabs. Chicken to slice and freeze. Onions in foil with a bit of olive oil and seasoning. A whole slew of extra burgers to toss into chili or another dish later on. Grilled burger in chili is delish. Quesadillas aren't worth buying. It's overpriced cheese on tortilla. You can make it yourself. Unless the tortillas are homemade. Quesadilla nights are perfect for using up leftovers. Side note, making your own tortillas is super easy and you can make them as big as you want. There's an entire book on this topic, Make the Bread, Buy the Butter, https://www.simonandchester.com/make-the-bread-by-the-butter/Jennifer-Rees/9781451605884 . I have that book and found it a useful, fun read. Hummus. The store-bought kind is never as good as the homemade stuff I've had. Like levels of difference in quality in my opinion. Had to scroll too far for this. Sabra is inedible. It's for people who've never eaten real hummus. I know I'm gonna piss off purists, but I make hummus from canned garbanzo. About to make some in a few days. It's so easy and cheap. Like 60% cheaper than buying it in a store or store deli. Also cheaper than restaurants. The most expensive ingredient is the tahini, but if you got access to an ethnic store, you're golden. Unless you're without a food processor, there's absolutely no reason to not make this at home. I have an amazing salmon recipe and have not ordered it out in a decade, as it is never as good as what I can make at home. I have made croissants once. They were delicious. I ate for 2 weeks afterwards. I will never make them again. They are worth every penny I pay someone else to make them. Could you share the salmon recipe? Deep frying yourself is a big pain, unless you have a deep fryer. And if you deep fry often enough that owning a deep fryer makes sense, it's probably time to reevaluate your diet. I've found that, as a 190-pound male, I never have enough flour and spices to deep fry myself, and am worried it might get a bit messy. For me, just about everything is worth making yourself at least once. I love cooking and seeing ingredients transform into finished dishes, so I will make my own bread, curries, bacon, sausages, pies, cakes, sushi, pickles. Bread is great to make, especially if you start your own sourdough and bake with that. However, some things are not really worth doing on a daily basis. I think it is worth doing just about everything once just to see how much work goes into making food, but into day-to-day life some things are just easier and better bought in. Puff pastry is an ass to make, for example, totally not worth it. Same with phyllo. Some curry pastes, massaman, rendang etc. are really good and are so much hassle to make and ingredients hard to source that it's not worth DIYing it. Pasta is fun to make but so cheap to buy as to make it pointless. No need, sourdough is so easy and cheap to make. Anyone can do it. Eggs. I tried making them myself but failed miserably though. Steak. I have yet to find a restaurant that cooks an amazing steak. They're usually bland in flavor, or you have to pay an arm and leg for a decent tasting one. Steak is also one of those things that's very straightforward to learn how to cook yourself, as well as you'd get it prepared in a high-end restaurant. Once you're good at cooking them, it just ends up being more about the cut and meat quality. So if you want a good steak, it makes more sense to go to a quality butcher and cook it yourself than go to a restaurant and pay 4x the cost. Roast potatoes. The frozen ones don't come close. A full roast dinner, as well, in fact. Never had one at a restaurant that comes close to making one at home. Agreed. Much prefer my own, homemade Sunday dinner to any I've had in a pub. Unless I'm hanging, ha ha ha. I try not to eat fried stuff a lot, but if I do I'd prefer it made out of my home because the smell stinks and lingers around afterwards. It's also messy. Other than that I make damn near everything. The only thing I could make that I don't is butter, but if I didn't have access to quality butter with a higher fat content I probably would. Homemade pizza is easily better than pizza after delivery. I don't like the base after the pizza has been 10 minutes in a box. Yeah. I don't understand how pizza got to be the default delivery food. Out of all commonly delivered foods, pizza handles deliver is the worst. Being thin and wide, it gets cold quickly, and it's one of those foods that really relies on being eaten fresh out of the oven. Homemade burgers are easy and you can have a lot of fun customizing and experimenting. Try adding different things to the patty mix. Turmeric is a great example to twist the flavors a bit. Probably cheaper than buying a fancy burger outside too. I do have love for a cheap food truck burger, though, I admit. Proper tonkotsu ramen is incredible if homemade correctly, but the sheer time and effort it takes renders it mostly pointless. Imo. Chili is worth making. Whether you prefer vegetarian, no beans, or alternative meats, like chicken or turkey, you'll end up with a better end product at far lower cost. For example, I make vegetarian chili using tofu as the protein, and black beans, from can. Costs more than dry beans but saves some time. A cauldron of chili nets us 2 dinners with seconds and 2 lunches. Total cost for all that chili, a gallon, or 128 ounces, is about $14, or 11 centos. A similar amount of canned veggie chili would cost $3 for a 15 ounces can, or 20 centos, almost double. Sushi isn't. Depends. I've already got the rice cooker and sushi rice. So all I really need is some fish and nori, maybe some avocado. I make it myself regularly. I'm not a master at rolling it, so it often turns out thick, but it's still quite yummy and cheap. Spreadable butter. I don't make the butter from scratch, but I just add room temperature butter and avocado oil to my mixer and I whip it really well. It becomes super spreadable, and I can control the ingredients. The price is super expensive in comparison to the quantity you get. It's about half the price. Fried chicken. Let Popeyes do it. Way too messy and smelly at home. I just made hot chicken for 20 of us last weekend. Was amazing. My wife and her friend got everything dredged and I sat in the garage with my buddy drinking beer and frying chicken thighs. But yeah, no frying in the house. Stinks too much. There's a great series by Moro Cooks called Make It or Buy It on TikTok. I made his vodka pasta based on his Make It recommendation and it was game changing. https://www.tiktok.com/comrade Moro Cooks !_8hvgkled 3 _1